Nobody should expect Muslim people in this country to feel no affinity towards their brothers and sisters dying every single day in Iraq, towards no form of kinship towards the 1.4 million people who have been made refugees in Pakistan by Obama's bombs. You cannot expect Muslim people to feel no kinship towards their brothers and sisters in occupied Palestine, and you cannot expect Muslim people to feel no affinity towards their brothers and sisters in Afghanistan. Now, we cannot look at anything without taking into account its history. This room has a history. This has a history. This microphone has a history. Just like this country has a history. Just like France has a history. Now, where were the two sources of extremely xenophobic comments coming from this week? In the form of Sarkozy in France and in the form of the Daily Express from Britain. Now, let us not forget that after the First World War, it was the British and the French who sliced up the Middle East and North Africa with no respect or empathy for the indigenous people of those lands. Now this what we are talking about today is not a problem in Britain, it is a problem with the world. It is a problem of imperialism. It is a problem of a system which places importance and places priority on big business ahead of human life. Now, it just so happens that the human lives we are talking about at the moment are predominantly Muslim. That is the case now. So, colonization is not finished. Flags have just been replaced by huge, big corporations. This is what we're dealing with, and we're not stupid, and we should never fool ourselves about this. Okay, I'll be brief. One point I would like to make is that we have certain parts of the media, not all of the media, certain parts of the media which act with very right-wing interests. So it's within their interest to demonize and dehumanize Muslim people. Full stop. Full stop. When you dehumanize a person, you can justify any crime you carry out upon them because they are not human and they are not the same as you. So you'll notice what they'll point out is physical differences. This is what they will try and make you feel passionately about. But really, it's not the physical difference, it's not the ideology, and it's not the faith that they have a problem with. It's the politics. Because they understand, they know deep down that Muslim people are angry and should be angry. This is what they have a problem with, and this is what they're afraid of. So they'll try and point out to you the physical differences, but they couldn't care less. They couldn't care less how a nun dresses. They couldn't care less how a Jewish man dresses. So why is it Muslims? So basically this campaign of constant demonizing, who does this serve? What does this serve to do? Well, this serves to justify, encourage, what is essentially an abhorrent foreign policy, right? And in the wider scheme, it serves to exonerate any blame. So when you hear these words, like 1 million Iraqi people dead, you are desensitized to the word Iraqis dead. You are desensitized to these words because it's almost part of everyday life. On Wednesday, the 24th of June, 80 Iraqi people died. On Thursday, the 25th of June, one very, very, very talented American musician died, okay? We are seeing a much bigger outpouring of grief for this one human being than for 80 human beings in one day. In one day! So, basically, that's pretty much it. The point I want to make, most importantly, is we must realize that a life is a life. A life is a life, and a human being is a human being. And the same value must be attached to all human life. And once that happens, then equality can become reality, and we can all live in peace and harmony how we should.
After interrogation, children are brought here for trial, Ophir military prison near Jerusalem. The army would not let Four Corners film inside.
I've been behind these walls 3 times. I saw children shuffling across the courtyard, handcuffed and shackled. Some hearings lasted 60 seconds.
Ahmed Manasra was 13 when Israeli forces arrested him on October 12, 2015, in the occupied East Jerusalem neighborhood of Beit Hanina. He and his cousin, Hassan Manasra, had been accused of involvement in a stabbing attack in the illegal Israeli settlement of Piskat Ze'ev. Hassan, who was 15, was shot and killed near the illegal settlement by Israeli police. Ahmed, who had not carried out the attack and was unarmed, was chased by illegal settlers, struck by a vehicle, and severely beaten while lying injured on the ground. When Israeli forces got to him, Ahmed was bleeding and surrounded by settlers yelling inciting slurs and insults at him. Despite his visible injuries and young age, his captors denied Ahmed immediate medical care. After he was finally brought to a hospital, he was briefly treated and swiftly transferred to an Israeli interrogation facility. He was interrogated without the presence of a lawyer or guardian, in direct violation of international standards on the treatment of children. Interrogation footage released subsequently showed Israeli officers shouting at him, while he cried and repeatedly stated that he could not remember the incident. In 2016, an Israeli court convicted Ahmed of attempted murder under Israeli terrorism laws, sentencing him to 12 years in prison, a term that was later reduced to 9.5 years. Despite forensic evidence confirming that Ahmed had not carried out the stabbings, the court upheld the sentence based on his presence at the scene. Ahmed was placed in Israeli juvenile detention and later in adult prisons, where over time his mental health began to deteriorate. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia, psychotic delusions, and severe depression. Human rights organizations reported that he had also begun to experience hallucinations, withdrawal, and suicidal ideation. Instead of receiving adequate mental health care, Ahmed was subjected to prolonged solitary confinement, sometimes for months at a time. Under international law, including in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, which Israel has ratified, solitary confinement of minors is strictly prohibited and considered a form of torture. In November 2021, Ahmed's condition further deteriorated, and he was transferred to Ayalon Prison Hospital in Ramla, Israel. Prison doctors and independent medical experts confirmed that his condition was critical and that continued imprisonment posed a serious risk to his life. Ahmed's legal team submitted multiple appeals for his early release, supported by medical reports and international legal standards. Israeli courts denied these requests, continuing to justify his imprisonment under counterterrorism legislation. In June 2022, a group of UN human rights experts issued a statement condemning Ahmed's treatment, describing it as the institutionalized and systematic ill-treatment of Palestinian children. Amnesty International and Doctors for Human Rights Israel also called for his immediate release, stating that his detention amounted to cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. As of April 2025, Ahmed Manasra is 22 years old. He has spent nearly a decade in Israeli prisons, most of those years under conditions that violate multiple international laws and conventions. Released in April 2025 after spending the entirety of his teenage years in Israeli prisons, his story is yet another example of how the Israeli occupation systematically criminalizes and mistreats Palestinian children with total impunity, leaving them scarred for life.
בגדול, עוד פעם, זה מעניין לי את העכוז מה עשו לאיש חמאס הזה. אני כל הזמן זוכר, קודם כל הדבר היחיד שמבחינתי הוא בעיה פה, זה שזו לא איזושהי מדיניות מוסדרת של המדינה להתעלל בעצירים. כי בגדול, זה גם, קודם כל מגיע להם, וזה אחלה נקמה שאנחנו צריכים לתת להם. ודבר שני, אולי זה גם ישמש אותם קצת יותר כהרתעה. קשור 30 בנותינו הנצים ב7 באוקטובר ועשו למעשים לא פחות חמורים.